Good evening, everybody. Live and uncut back again. I tell you, last week I was really delighted to have my guest Jerry Warden, and I had such a fantastic conversation with him. He was down in Southampton, as you probably all know him. This week, I first met this lady a few months ago when she came to my camera club to give just a presentation on her life story. And I thought, if there is one person that I want to have on my show, it is this lady. It's an amazing story, and for those that are going to watch this show either now or later, stick with it in terms of the time that we're going to be talking, because this is a very, very important story. If someone doesn't pick a pen up and write a book about it, I'll be amazed. So it is my great pleasure to invite HyMoney. Hi, good evening.
Hi there, Paul. Thanks for having me.
No problem at all. Hi. As I said to earlier on, when I first met you, when you came to the club and gave the presentation, the stories you were telling us that evening, I was just basically gobsmacked. The way things develop for you in the photographic industry. We'll come to that later, but first of all, the most important thing is, born in India, Bangalore, and you come over to the UK at the age of, was it 19?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, tell us how that came about, because this again sort of puts everything into perspective, really, with regards to how people felt in India with regards to the UK.
Well, it's how people in the UK felt about people from India, as a matter of fact, isn't it?
Yeah,
it was after the India got independence. There was a lot of unrest. And they said British quit India. They were painted on walls everywhere. And there was a lot of unrest. They wanted the British to get out of the country. And my mother waited for me to finish my education, and I'm the eldest of 3 girls. So she said, as soon as your education's complete, I'm sending you on a one-way ticket to England for a new life. And that's how I found myself, aged 19. But actually, it's like today's age of 12 in those days. Yeah. I was just so innocent, being brought up in a boarding school where you only went home for a total of 6 weeks in the year. And so I wasn't really prepared to be sent to a foreign country and start a new life. And that's how I found myself on a one-way ticket to England.
One-way ticket?
One-way ticket. Set sail on Christmas Day as well.
Was it a case of go and don't come back, or just go and get involved?
And go with my blessings, because England was home. England is what every person dreamed of who was born in India, the Anglo people, the Anglo-Indian people, the British. It was their dream to one day get out of India and start a new life, being embraced by the British people in England. But that's not what happened.
I know that apart from obviously your clothes and everything, there was a very important piece of equipment that was given to you, and a duty for you to do when you got to the UK. Could you tell us about that? What your mother gave you?
Yeah, well, it was Christmas Day as I was boarding the ship, and my mother gave me this box brownie camera, and she was so proud, as at least the first of her 3 daughters are going to set foot on English soil. And she said, when you're settled, I want you to go to Buckingham Palace and take a photograph of where the royal family live, and get it printed and send it back to me, so that I could show everybody that my daughter has gone to England to start a new life, and she's even seen where the royal family live.
Lovely.
So the years went by, and I never got to Buckingham Palace, but I somehow got a Crystal Palace.
Yeah, that comes later, obviously.
Yeah.
So when you arrived in the UK, what basically happened then? You've got to find a place to live, and you've got to find work. How did you go about that?
You had to find a place to live before you'd even get a ticket to come to England. So you had to have that, and you had to have £15 in your pocket, and you had to go to the labour exchange within hours to start looking for a job. There was none of all this namby-pamby stuff that's going on now. It was 100% essential. So I had my £15. I had an address in Croydon,
right,
which was a boarding house.
And what year was this?
In the late 50s.
Late 50s. I see.
And I remember
So,
arriving at East Croydon Station, and I
right.
had this metal tin trunk, and all it had in it, apart from my box brownie camera, knitted clothes, knitted to keep warm, seeing as it was Christmas Day and we arrived in January.
Yeah.
And the taxi driver says, "Pick it up, mate." You open the boot of the car. He said, "There's no bleeding servants in this country. Pick it up yourself." And I thought, oh, that he's rude. And that's the first sign I had that we were not welcome here.
Yeah.
It got worse. It got
Very,
worse.
yes, we'll come to that. We'll come to that. So okay, so you've got an address to go to. That was one of the bits that I probably missed in the presentation you gave at my club. That you had a place. So on the work front, how did that go? Did you
Well,
did you
yeah,
did
well,
you
what
find
had
work?
happened?
Did you find work straight away?
No, I didn't, because I was told 100 times, when you get to the labour exchange, you've got to show your senior Cambridge certificate and your certificate of Pickman's shorthand and typing, and you'll get a job, even if it's just working in an office, to work your way up. And so, in good faith, I waited in the queue, and my name was called out, and they said, "You wogs think you can come to this country, get all the best jobs? Forget it, mate." And so he sent me, the first one was Payne's Puppet Factory in Croydon. And I was so innocent, I had no idea what a Payne's Puppet Factory, anything factory work was about. And I took all my certificates, and they said, "Oh, we're not employing you, mate. You're too qualified. You'll only cause trouble." Lost the job. And this happened about 3 times. They would send me to like sweep the platforms on East Point Station and things. And I would take all my certificates because I'm so naive. And that finally it got into my head, I'm losing all these jobs because I'm too qualified. The next job they send me to, leave all your certificates behind. And of all the places they sent me to was Croydon Photographic. And hence my world of photography was the first step I took.
But I know this part of the story, so I'm leading you towards it. Tell us what you first got involved with and the length of time in the area that you were working in, that photographic shop studio.
It was a disused aerial shelter down by Surrey Street in Croydon. And my job, with all my qualifications and good education, was to wash photographs that had been popped out of the darkroom through a little hole in the wall. And there were 3 concrete troughs. And it comes out of the darkroom through a little hole where they printed it up. And you put it into this first trough. In the meantime, the third trough is got somebody else picks it up and puts it on the rotary dryer, which means everything moves along. And the new stuff comes out, it goes to the dryer, and I spent 8 hours a day, every single day, just washing photographs. I had chilblains that were so fat on my fingers and bleeding. My toes were just so swollen with chilblains, but it was a job. And I just persevered. I just had to, because I had to pay my rent. But when the summertime came and people were starting to take more photographs, it was one of those factories that developed all the photographs from all the little chemist shops and things around the place. And so a little van would go to all the shops and pick it up and then just dump it at Croydon Photographic.
Mm-hmm.
And so then they were looking for somebody, because somebody got pregnant and moved on or something, to work in the darkroom. So I said I could do that. Immediately you're sitting down for a start. It was wonderful. Then we had these huge big enlargers, and I got so used to it so quick that they used to bring people around to show them how I worked, because they said, but then all the other girls in the darkroom didn't like me because I was showing them up. They were too slow. And so, but it started me off on my career as into photography, and I thank God for that.
Were you at this time taking photographs, or was it?
No, not at all.
No, not at all.
No.
The box brownie hadn't come out of its bag,
No,
basically. No, not at all.
No, not for.
So at this stage, we have a period of you're working in this. I'm going to call it a studio.
No,
You're
it's what
working in there.
it's a factory.
Factory. Sorry, we'll call it a factory then.
It was a
Factory.
factory. Yeah, it was
And
mass-produced printing, developing and printing factory.
which I suppose is how all the films were processed and developed in those days when basically they all
Studios were
came in from
like
the chemist all over
studio
the place.
lights and backdrops and lighting. No, this was 100% a factory. And it
Yeah.
just reminded me one day, can I say this quickly? They
Yes.
told me I had to go and develop rolls of film. So you had to go into the dark room, and on the wall there used to be metal arms that would be flattened against the wall. But when you switched all the lights off and you were in the pitch black, you had to move this arm so it's standing up against the wall. Then you've got to flick open the 35mm cassettes, and then take the film out and clip 2 metal clips, one each end. The top one's got a hole in it, and you have to put it on this protruding arm. And then when you've got so many, you lift the whole lot up and you drop it into developing tanks. So that's fine, but I walked into the darkroom one day and somebody before me had forgotten to move the metal arm flat against the wall. So in the pitch black, I just walked straight into it,
No.
bang into my eye, fainted, I literally saw stars, I can still remember, ended up in Moorfields Eye Hospital, but it got better. But that's how bad health and safety was in those days.
Yeah, it wasn't very good then at all. No, you're right. So okay, so we've got an established job. We're learning about the process and developing of photography, but we're now getting to a stage now where you're going out and with friends, going to the dancing clubs.
Excuse me, one club, no friends, just because I hadn't got any family here. There was nobody here. It was my birthday, and everyone felt sorry for me. So they said, "Oh, let's take Hy to the Orchid Ballroom in Purley."
Yeah.
I said, okay, so I had to even borrow somebody's dress, which was bright yellow. I had to borrow somebody's dress. Could you imagine how sad that is? And then I went to the Orchid Ballroom and met this man called Bill Money and did a couple of waltzes around the dance floor, jiving around, and ended up getting married. Not ending up having to get married, but just ending up getting married.
Ending up getting married. I think at this point we should actual fact point out that your real Christian name is Hyacinth.
That's correct, yes.
And
I remember him making fun of me, saying, "What's your name?" That's right.
Exactly right. So of course Hyacinth and all the bouquet references and everything else. So
no, there was no bouquet in those days.
There was no bouquet in those days. No, exactly. So you just decided to drop it and leave it at Hy. So okay, so you're married life now, and children come along.
First baby though, just first. That's when I brought the camera out. That's the really turning point from being a darkroom technician, if I could give it such a posh name. Right. It wasn't posh, but I was developing and printing. Yes. And then I had still not picked up the camera because I saw no point. I hadn't even got to Buckingham Palace because I just wasn't interested. It was too hard trying to make a life when you've been in a boarding school since the age of 8, and then you're sleeping in a dormitory with 30 people, and then you're suddenly alone in a country, and you're in bed and breakfast in a boarding house. It's so lonely. Every single face you see every day is a new face, assuming you're not talking about your work. Yeah. So it was a very, very scary, lonely, sad time. But then when I had my first baby and my family and friends, my school friends were still in India, they kept saying, "When are we going to see a picture of your baby?" And my husband was a sports fanatic. Can I tell you, Mondays and Fridays snooker, Saturday, Sunday, bank holiday, Monday cricket.
I must be honest, this is when I started to cringe when you were telling this story at the club. I thought, my God, I was football, rugby in the winter, cricket every given day in the summer.
Are you guilty yourself of that?
I'm guilty. But
shame on you.
I'm not as guilty as we're going to come to the day. I'm not as guilty as doing what happened on. I'm going to call it the day because I must be honest. When you started telling that, I couldn't. I was Because there's a lot of as you know, there's a lot of ladies present at the club that night, and they were.
There was a gasp that went right up in the room. But let me say, my husband had a Voigtlander camera, and he wouldn't let me touch it because he said I wouldn't understand it, and I truly believed I wouldn't. He said it's far too complicated, and I didn't think he was being chauvinistic. I really believed I couldn't understand it, so let it go. But when Lise was like 3 months old, and I'm still not getting any pictures because he's always away somewhere playing sport, I said, you know what, I've got that box brownie camera, let's dig it out. Got a roll of film. I think there's 12 exposures or 8. 8 in a 125. And 8 exposures. So you had to make every single picture had to count. It had to be really important. You had to capture, I felt, I had to capture the very essence of this child. Because I'm showing her off. I've got to have it developed. It's got to go all the way across the oceans to India before the Skyping and all the modern stuff. And so every single time I was going to click, it had to count and convey what I wanted it to convey. And I hadn't realized just how important that was. It wasn't just, oh well, just sit there, coochie-coo, smile for mummy, click. I had to make sure everything was perfect, that there was nothing in the background. All you wanted to see was this child who was so beautiful.
On the results that you got back, from the results of that first film, were you hooked on photography straight away? Or did you just feel it was
no, that was it.
A duty?
No, it was it, because it took a week to 10 days.
Yeah.
Go to Croydon Photographic. And I kept going to the chemist across the road and saying, is my film back yet? And he goes, I told you, it's a week to 10 days. Oh, my film back. I know how long it takes to develop a film. I've worked at Croydon Photographic. And so the anticipation, which to this day I still get. I came back from the Footballer of the Year at 2 in the morning. I had to look at the pictures because I couldn't go to bed without saying, oh, just let's see how that one turned out and that one turned out. It hasn't changed from that very first time I brought the box camera out.
So now you're hooked. You're hooked on photography and you're using your box brownie. Was it 2 more children followed on after that?
3 boys after that.
3 boys after that. So really now you
my own little dynasty in this country.
Yeah, the dynasty, exactly right. Yeah, the back 4, basically.
Yes. I had one of the Crystal Girls and the back 3.
There you go. But so now I've got to basically jump forward a number of years to that day. And it was one of your son's birthday present that you were lining up?
That's correct, yes.
Yeah. Tell us that story to the point of when you had to step in, if you see what I mean. I don't want to give too much away here, if you know where I'm going to with it. So you've decided to organise something. Your son wants to go to a particular place for his birthday. Tell us that story, Hi.
But leading up to that, because I had all these children, I turned my garden into a football pitch and all the neighbours' kids would come and play. So I was always photographing action stuff. I would go to the Girl Guides and photograph them. I'd go to the Boy Scouts as the boys would belong to the and photograph. So I always had the camera in my hand. And so I was used to taking action photographs of the children. I had no idea that I would even go beyond that. By this time, I was given a Rolleiflex camera. My husband gave it to me just to keep me quiet because I was moaning all the time. He built a darkroom for me to keep me quiet again. So basically, I was so into taking action photographs. If there's a group photograph, say all the cousins or all the kids, I'd say, hold hands together and run towards me. Mm-hmm. And that way you'd see the little ones tagging behind, the big ones thrusting forward. It was just, instead of just all sitting in a group, it had to be action. So then, when it was Martin's birthday, I said, what would you like to do? And he said, I want to go to the palace. And I said, oh, I haven't been to the palace yet. My mother's wishes hasn't come true. And I said, but you can't tell the Queen's, you can't be sure the Queen's going to be there. And he said, oh, not that palace, silly, I'm talking about Crystal Palace. And I said, what's Crystal Palace? He said, it's a football club. And I said, no, I'm not going to a football club. as I used to take the children to all the things because my husband was always playing sport. I said, on this occasion, I cannot do this. I love you, I love all of you, but I cannot go to a football match. I don't know where Crystal Palace is. I don't know. I'm too scared. I can't do that. So we pinned him down, and he promised he'd take the family, not me, the children and himself, to Crystal Palace v Liverpool. And on the morning of the match, everyone was so happy. The boys had got all their kit ready, and they were just, I've got a photograph of them leaping off a wall in football kit. They were just so happy. They'd never been to a football game. And the phone rings, and he comes back and he says to me, "Are my whites ready?" And I said, "What?" He said, "Are my whites ready?" You may well shake your head. You may very well shake your head. And I said, "But I know what it means. Are my whites ready?" Means he wants to go to play cricket. It was the overlapping of the seasons.
Yeah.
And he said, "Well, they're one man short. I can't let the team down." And I said, "But you promised, promised us, you promised." He said, "It's no big deal." He walks upstairs, goes to the airing cupboard, packs his long cricket bag. I could still see it in my mind's eye. And we were all crying, including me, the boys, everyone was crying. And they were saying, "I don't want to go with Mum." He said, "You take them. Here's the A to Z. Here are the tickets. You take them." And they were saying, "Mum hates football." "I don't want to go with Mum. She hates football." And he said, "No big deal." He packed his bags. He waved. He said, "Best of British luck." Slammed the door, and he drove off.
I hope he got a duck.
I don't even know, because by the time he came back, I'd moved to a whole new world.
Exactly right. So with this is now what I find. You've had that build up to this day. So you go to Crystal Palace versus Liverpool. As I said, it's quite ironic that you went to the Football of the Year last night as a guest, and the Football of the Year, Luis Suarez,
I know.
as it turns out, wasn't there. But anyway, that's the ironic part of it. So you got the tickets.
It's funny, isn't it?
It is. Liverpool is following you around all over the place. So you go to this game. Just out of interest, what year would that have been?
Do you know, I can't remember. It was mid-70s again.
Mid-70s.
It's in my book somewhere. Yeah.
I think it's got to be around that time because
Kevin Keegan was playing for Liverpool.
You know, I've got to. This was the ironic thing about your presentation. There was a photograph that you showed, which unfortunately I found one, but I can't get it up on the screen. Where you, I'm probably jumping the gun a little bit here. I knew I'd seen you. For some reason, your face was familiar, and I knew I'd seen you.
You did say that, didn't you?
And it wasn't until you pointed the jacket out that I remember when I used to stand at the Holmesdale end with my father, and all those crowd surges and everything, and he used to hold them back so that I wasn't crushed. And I remember that jacket.
It's true, I did have it.
And it's absolutely, and it just hit me when you said it. But anyway, let's go back to the day when you're with your boys and the family there watching this football game, and you've taken the Rolleiflex.
Yeah, I've taken the Rolleiflex. I was so terrified. I was just so terrified because I'd just passed my driving test. I didn't like to go outside of my comfort zone as young mums were like in those days. Well, I was anyway. And we hadn't gone many miles away from West Wickham, where I lived, and there was this incredible traffic jam, and outside all the windows were scarves hanging out and everything. I thought, oh, I don't know, I could put my A to Z away and just follow this lot. Found a place to park, which was a miracle. And when I'd walked with the children and my Rolleiflex around my neck, I could not believe the atmosphere was so electric, exactly like it was with Crystal Palace v Liverpool just a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
Crowds, the colours, the smell of the hot dogs, the people selling souvenirs and rosettes, and old ladies with their bobble hats on, and families, children. I thought, where's this world been hiding from me? I had no idea, because I've never even watched a programme a football program on television.
Right.
I couldn't bear it. I couldn't bear it because I couldn't compete with my husband for his attention through sport. That's all he loved was sport.
Yeah.
So I just fell in love with it. It was just incredible.
So when you're actually in the stadium there with the boys, you're taking photographs of the match.
I tried, but everybody was jumping up in front of me, and I could, and I had looking down like this into the Rolleiflex. It was rubbish. It was.
Yeah.
But I did with my human eye, not through the camera lens. I could see what my children were doing in the back garden, like kicking the ball and leaping and, you know, parallel to the ground as they try to save a goal in the goal net. But they're doing it so magnificently as professional sportsmen on the pitch.
Yeah.
And I kept closing my eyes, and I could see, like, the goalkeeper would go to snatch, and my head would go like, snap, snap. You know, his hair would be on end, shirt would be rippling, and instead of just looking at it and enjoying it, in my head, I was going, snap, that's a good photo, that's a good photo.
Interesting.
It was interesting. And it hasn't changed to this day.
No. Well, I saw some photographs that you took this season, actually, and you know, what you're talking there, you can see that you've obviously preempted what's going to happen, and you've taken the photograph as it's happened. But that's later. Let's carry on with this part of this fascinating story, in the sense that after you get your results back, how long did you have to wait for your results? I suppose another 5 to 10 days for Croydon Photographic to turn those around.
No, actually, I didn't even use the roller film. I think I didn't even use 12 exposures because everybody was jumping up. But what it was that my eldest son said to me, "Do you know there's a footballer called Steve Highway? And can we go and get his autograph?" I'd never even heard of any of these people. So I said, "Where do we go to do that?" So Steve Highway then comes out from the main entrance, and there's a big coach standing outside, double-decker thing. And he passes these children, and they say, "Please, please," like beggars, you know, just wanting their autograph. And he's so superior, and I don't even know who won the match. And he goes into the coach, and climbs up the top, and he's looking down like this, and I did get a picture of that. And I said, "That's not very nice, is it? All these little children want his autograph, and he's so rude." And then there was this other guy, and he didn't have a perm in those days. And going into the club after the match to have a drink, he said, "My name's Kevin Keegan." And the guy said, "Where's your pass?" He said, "I haven't got a pass." And he said, "Well, without a pass, it's more than my job's worth. You're not coming in." So I photographed this Kevin Keegan with my Rolleiflex, all the little children holding out paper, programs, anything, and he's signing autograph, and he was just a beginner. Steve Highway, who was the god of Liverpool, was sitting there just looking down at everybody. So I thought to myself, that guy is caring about the fans. And then the goalkeeper, somebody goes by and says, "It's all right, mate, he's with us." Then he went in. So that was my first match. It was just incredible.
And then after that, basically, it was you go regularly to the football matches, but at the
No. I didn't even go back one more time. Not even one more time until I got a pass to sit on the pitch.
And this is the next stage of the story, where basically, I keep calling it a story, it's not, it's your biography. But the next stage is you now want to get pitch side. You want to get next to the goal with the other professional photographers.
Like day 3 after I'd been to my first match, I kept phoning up, and they wouldn't. They say, "Yes, we call you back. Give me your number." Day 4, day 5, I phoned. "No, they haven't called me back. I'll call you back." By day 6, I got in the car and I drove down there face to face. Now, bearing in mind, I was really lacking in confidence. I was just a timid kind of person. Didn't have any confidence about anything. But it's so hard to describe. I could still get these images at that time. I wonder why I was missing it all as these images are happening. I wanted to just capture them. So I said, I went to the club and I said, there was the secretary there, or receptionist, and she said, can I help you? I said, oh yes, my name is HyMoney. And she froze. And I said, I've been phoning you, but you've not called me back. So she says, just a minute, please. And she gets on the telephone. And I heard her say, yeah. You know that woman with a strange, funny name? Yeah. She's been phoning, yeah. Well, she's here in person. And then she puts the phone down. She said, he'll see you if you go upstairs. And I said, oh, thank you. Like I just knew he would have to do it.
And who was that?
Never happened in a million years again. Never.
And who was that? Who was that you met on the stairs?
Bert Head. And when I went, I said, well, if the head man tells me I can't do it, I never knew his name was Mr. Head. So I went up the steps, and he said, so are you a press photographer? I said, no. He said, are you a journalist? I said, no. He said, well, what do you want to... I said, oh, I just need to be there. All these people were in my way when I was at the pitch. And I just poured my heart out to him. And he called the secretary. I can still see him. He's pressing the buzz. He comes in. He said, for God's sake, give this woman a pass with a name like HyMoney and a cheek like yours. He said, give her a pass and just get rid of her. I said, thank you, thank you. And that's it. And that's
so basically from then on it was just plain sailing for you. You went to the football every week, you sat by the pitch, took your photographs?
It wasn't actually plain sailing in that Rolleiflex was really hard. Because you've got 12 exposures and there's people coming here, there's people from here, there's goalkeepers, there's so much going on, and they're not little boys playing in the back garden. It's powerful, it's busy, it's noisy, and it's rough. And then I realized I was looking. So what I did was go with the boys to go to the reserve matches, the juniors, and practice. And I did that. And then one day, one of the reserves was been called up for a very important cup game because of a lot of injuries. And they hadn't got a photograph. And they said, oh, that woman with the glasses, she sits there. Oh, just give her, she's got photographs of him. And then they phoned me and they said, if you can get it to the Daily Mirror by whatever the time, we'll use it. And I thought, oh, I've got to drive into London. I've got to cross over the River Thames in my car. But I did it and saw my name in the papers, and I was just...
Your lights were lit up.
That's exactly what they were.
When the continuation of this football photography, I'm going to use the word career now. You ran into some pretty difficult times with, dare I use the term, fellow professionals. You had some difficult times with them, didn't you?
Yeah.
Did you have that problem at Crystal Palace, or was it just basically everywhere you went?
It wasn't just Crystal Palace, because by this time they had a Palace program, okay?
Yeah.
And because I'm seeing football for the very first time, I'm saying, who washes these muddy clothes when they come off the pitch? Who paints all these lines? I'm asking questions because I'm looking not as a male who's grown up on football, but as someone who's not even been brought up in this country, but seeing an organization for the first time through my eyes. And so they'd let me go and photograph the ladies washing the kit, and then gradually they'd put the pictures. So I kind of changed the format of Palace, or, well, in Palace, but football programs, because I would do the wives, the kids, the ladies that washed the kids, and their weddings, their babies born. So it became such a family. All the Palace fans knew what was going on in their team. It was all good. It was all lovely. It was all family, and they knew the players. And the players used to come up with their babies, a newborn baby, and the crowd would stand out. And I've got pictures where they're showing the baby to all the fans. Could you imagine them doing that today? Never happened.
Well, the only time they do that today, Hi, is when they're walking around the Wembley Stadium and celebrating the winning of a medal or a runners-up medal with their babies.
This is something which they do in all the clubs, but they never did it before, and they never had them in the programs.
No.
So I've grown up with Palace players whose children have grown up, and I've actually done their weddings, the children who photographed then. I've done their parents, their grandparents' 50th wedding anniversary, all these. I kind of get invited to all kinds of things, you know.
Yeah, because basically with that, obviously that initial start and that involvement with the club, and as you say, you saw so many boys join the club and working through. You basically become almost synonymous with Crystal Palace Football Club now. You know,
they call me. Yeah, they say I'm like the legend.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the legend.
Because you're part of the furniture almost, so to speak.
That's exactly the phrase I was looking for. They said Hy is part of the Palace furniture. That's
yeah, exactly. Now there's an interesting part where I remember, and I just again as a description you gave of when you went to Wembley, and you had your boys with you, and you're going to Wembley, and you had your pass to do the work.
Yeah.
But they wouldn't let you in.
That's right.
The boys were up in the stadium. You'd given them firm instructions to go and watch the game, and then you were going to go and do your work. I assume you got pitch side clearance.
Oh, well, I had an official pass from the Football Association. It was in Lancaster Gate. No, it wasn't. It was somewhere in the Midlands in those days before they moved to Lancaster Gate.
Yeah.
And I applied for it because I think one of the Palace players was playing in a home international or something.
Right.
And I was so proud that I was. Yeah. It never entered my head that no woman has been on Wembley pitch before.
Quite amazing.
I took the ball. It's fun. And now looking back, why didn't my husband come with us as a family day out? It's interesting, isn't it? It never occurred to me until only the other day when I was talking about it. But it's. I said, you stay where you are in the seats, and when it's all over, do not move from this gate, and I will go to the photographer's entrance. And to my horror, this guy said, but you're a bird. That's what they used to call women in those days. I said, yeah. And he said, over my dead body, mate. And I said, what do you mean? He said, over my dead body. Is there nowhere sacred you women don't want to stick your noses in? And he 100% stood rigid and would not let me pass with an official Football Association photographer's pass with HyMoney. They hadn't realized it was a female, or if they had, I don't know, but he would not let me through. Now the photographers who know me so well because they'd seen me around, I was looking, I wouldn't ask them, but I was begging with my eyes, help me, stand up for me, and they went like this and walked past, thinking, yes, we've got her at last. Yeah. And I had to sit outside the whole match. I could hear the noise, I could hear the cheering, and I was like a big girl's blouse just crying because I didn't know who to complain to. I was helpless.
You later got an apology, not that it counts so much.
I did get an
apology,
yes.
In a way, I suppose it's nice that you did get an apology, but I missed
but I didn't go to the press. I did not go to the press.
No, that's true.
You realise, because everybody in that press at that time were men, and they were gunning for me anyway, and they couldn't put me down because I was still there. I was still there, and they tried so hard. They were saying, "All right, darling, you got your knitting with you, brought your crochet," and all those horrible remarks.
It's just a terrible description you give, which is obviously is fact. And what I fail to understand is what was the reason for them to behave that way? Was it the fact that you were a freelance, or was it purely and simply the fact that you were a female?
Funnily enough, you saying freelance is interesting because I hadn't thought about that before. But when they refused me entry to Wembley Stadium, I said to myself, I'll have to join. I'd heard that there was a National Union of Journalists, so I thought I will try and join the union. And I qualified. I ticked all the boxes in every way I qualified. So I sent it away. I think you had to have earned so much money for 2 years, had publications. I think the minimum was 2 years, and I'd been more than that at Crystal Palace. And the Croydon Advertiser, South London Press, Evening Standard, Evening News, Daily Mirror, etc. So when I sent it away, I got a letter back from the union to say that every member of the Sports Photographers Association has signed their name to block my entry into the union. And they said, this is on the phone, she said, between you and me, this is the worst case of sex discrimination ever brought before the National Union of Journalists. And I just knew there was going to be trouble. I just knew it. But I never knew they would go through the lengths of signing a petition. And they said, we're going to make sure she doesn't work in any London clubs. And I thought, you can't stop me. I'm going to Crystal Palace. If Crystal Palace are playing Chelsea, I'm going to go there.
Yeah.
And the managers were just as bad. I remember going to Spurs one day, and Bill Nicholson saw me walk through. I had a bib with a number on it, and he said, hey, where are you off to then? I said, I'm a press photographer. And he goes, this ain't a bleeding circus, mate. And I said, sorry. He goes, and I'm walking. He said, you come back. And he said, you can only stay here if you sit behind the advertising boards. I had to climb over the advertising boards so nobody would see me.
It's really, when you think about it now, we're talking what, mid 70s, early 80s?
80s now.
No, Bill Nicholson was he's got to be early 70s, Bill Nicholson at Spurs.
Well, I remember him saying that, yes.
Yeah.
Well, it all happened very fast once I got established, because in the programs it would say photography, high money. Always so exciting. In the Palace, I've got hundreds of Palace programs which says photography, high money. And then, of course, we had the Malcolm Allison era. Oh, yeah, anyway, to get back to the unions, the guy said, the woman said to me, you've got to prove that you're... They said all she does goes to football just to take her children. And I said, yes, I do take my children to the football match. They stand behind the goal, I buy their tickets. And when they were smaller, I'd say to the policeman, could you look after my boys? And I'd walk past to sit by the goal. They'd go, that's me mum, that's me mum. Then as they got older, I'd walk past and I'd go like this. They'd go, oh, God.
Oh, no, mum, no, don't wave at me, mum, please.
Yeah, so basically, I had to go to a solicitor and pay a solicitor unnecessarily to fight my battle. And when they eventually gave me my union card, the woman said to me, the man who represented the Sports Photographers Association was frothing at the mouth that you'd got a union card. Those were her words. She said he was frothing at the mouth.
That's the one time, I suppose, where we got to be thankful for what the unions did do or do when they support their members. So let's just move a little way away from football for the time being, because there's a couple of very interesting stories revolving around tennis. You started to go to Wimbledon and watch the tennis event there. Tell us the story. Tell us the story about John.
I was so used to taking photographs that I got thinking, oh, it's Saturday, I need to go. Oh, Wimbledon's starting. Why don't? By this time, my name HyMoney was in the papers a fair bit, and I sent for a photographer's pass. I got it, and I went into the press room. I was just following instructions, and it was absolutely pouring with rain that day. And I walked up the steps and into the press room, and I could see all the tables. There were strawberries and cream, there were coffee, tea, everything, sandwiches. And it's then in the corner of the room there was this table with all the Fleet Street mob, and they were playing cards. And I was so scared. I went and just grabbed a cup of tea and went and looked out of a window and watched all the rain pouring. And then some American guy comes up to me, I knew he was because of his accent, and he said, what have you done to upset those guys there? And I said, what have I done? I've done nothing, I've just walked in. He said, they said that if HyMoney sets foot inside the centre court, we're all going to have a walkout. And I thought, oh God. By this time they had accepted the fact that I was doing the football.
Did you ever get
into tennis?
Did you ever feel at any stage while this was going on of just walking away?
Never.
Good for you.
Not because I'm one of these bullshit people thinks you bastards won't get me. It's because I loved what I was doing.
Yeah.
It was like it just fed my soul. It's really dramatic to say that, but to capture moments, like I was there when McEnroe went mad and he was saying, you cannot be serious. I was in the centre court then. But to get back to that particular morning of the centre court, it was afternoon actually. It was still pouring with rain, and I thought, I'm just going to get out of here because I was so scared. I thought, I'm in an enclosed place. It's not on a pitch. So I walked outside and I was walking around thinking, what can I do? What can I photograph? And I looked up, and it was in the day of Sue Barker when she was playing. and I saw her looking up to the window, and I looked up at her, and she waved to me like that, and there was all this ivy framing the window, and I clicked, and she just waved like that, and then I got the picture of the Evening Standard, and I've actually had exclusives in the Daily Mirror and some of the nationals, and they promised they'd give me a byline, like I had an exclusive of John McEnroe when he was defeated in the first round after winning Wimbledon the previous year. And I had an exclusive just by pure chance, and they gave me their word that they would give me a byline, and I got the paper the next day, no byline. And I phoned them up and they said, do you want a riot on our hands? We've got the top photographers at Wembley and you get the exclusive picture. And once the papers come out and you don't get a byline, any amount of sorry makes no difference. I wanted people to know I took that picture, I got the story.
Exactly right. You deserve the recognition for it. Like everyone takes a photograph, it's their copyright on it. If it's shown somewhere, they deserve to get recognition for it. Another story with Martina Navratilova. I think we have to be a little bit. I think we have to be a little bit careful how we actually tell this part of your life story. But Navratilova.
Are you referring? Well, first of all, I went to a party that was always held in a hotel in London the week before Wimbledon started. It doesn't happen today, I don't think. And I was in the ladies' loo, and there was a mirror there, and standing next to me, one side was Martina, the other side was that Dr. Rennie Richards, who was once a man, and he was her best mate. And I'm thinking, oh, I've got Dr. Rennie Richards standing here, putting lipstick on and in a white long-sleeved see-through, I don't mean see-through, the arms, the sleeves were see-through, and it was so feminine and so pretty. And I was thinking, oh my God, I can't do this, obviously, but I can't believe that I'm standing in this situation when I've got this one and this one. And they were making the news that her friend is this new sex change, Dr. Rennie Richards. Well, the other one you're referring to was when I was leaving, walking Wimbledon after a day, and I hadn't got anything much because sometimes you get exclusive, sometimes you don't. So I'm walking up the hill where I parked my car, and in front of me, as I was leaving through the gate, there was Martina walking. So I was going there anyway, in that direction. So my footsteps were like this behind hers. So she kept looking back at me, click. She walked on, looking back at me. And then when we get to the first road on the left, she just, I was meant to go straight on, but she turned the first road on the left, and there were these lovely new houses. And she was like the first or the second house. And I thought, oh, I wonder where she's going then. So I stopped, and then that was naughty of me because I should have walked on, but I stopped. And then she's walking down the garden, which is a very short garden path, and she bangs the door, and this person comes out to the door, and she says, get back in, and I went click. I couldn't help it. That was naughty, but I hadn't set out to do that. That's my excuse.
That's just one of those things happening in the life of.
I didn't know what the story was. I had no idea. I was innocent. So I'm driving home in the car, and then it takes a long time to get to where I lived then. And she's giving an interview, and she said the British press are the scum of the earth. They follow you to where you live, and she was just going, oh, I'm sorry.
Oops.
And I didn't know that she's come out as being gay, and that was her girlfriend. Just to be exposed that she was in a relationship with this lady. Yeah. But I just thought, oh, I know where she's staying now. That's good. Click.
Yeah. We've had the situation with John McEnroe with that one and Martina. Now the one which I must be honest, when you told us this particular episode, when you came across Jane and Torval and Dean when they were doing an evening. Your mother was with you, wasn't she?
Yeah, you see, there again, I have never been a paparazzi that go around sneaking around hoping to get something on somebody. I've never done that, ever. But the same with John McEnroe, that was a complete accident. The same with Martina, that was a complete accident. And the same for this one as well. And I was leaving after the match, and as you go past the main entrance, the police stopped and let all these courtesy cars go through. And then he said, go on, move on like this. And I looked in front of me, and the last car was John McEnroe. And he had his head on the woman's shoulder like that. And you could see that band and everything. I said, I can't believe it. John McEnroe's in front of me. Oh, my camera's here. And I don't even remember what happened about the match, if he was knocked out or whatever. But every time I went to stop, because it was very slow traffic, all I could see is the reflection of the trees all on the back of the windscreen. And I was just so frustrated. So I'm just following and following in a very slow way, because until the traffic eased. And I should have turned left to go home, but the car went straight on. I said, ooh, might as well follow the car. That was really naughty as well. And I followed the car, and I thought, where the hell is it going? It was like going towards the airport. And I was thinking, oh my God, I'm too far from home. At what stage do I turn around and say, enough already? But then suddenly the car pulled into a big hotel near the airport. I thought, I've got so far, I'm going to blag it. So I went and parked my car, and put the handbrake on, opened the door, picked up my camera. Now, John McEnroe's getting out of his car, the back of the car, and he opens the boot, and he's taking his tennis racket out. And then he goes, I said, excuse me, Mr. McEnroe, please may I take your photograph? Because I've always asked people if I could take their photograph. And he goes, you see this down here? You see this? And I'm going, oh, what's that he's pointing to? And his cigarette butts. And he's grinding his feet into it. And he said, you're even effing lower than that. And I said, oh, I'm really sorry. I'm sorry you feel like that. And I just took one photograph because I was trouble. And I got in my car. I was literally trembling. I was so...
But on the back of that, it turns out that no one knew where John McEnroe was, and you.
That was it. I was going to say that I was driving home and listening to the radio, and it said John McEnroe has gone into hiding. No one knows where he is. And I said, oh, I know where he is. I've got a photograph. And so I phoned the Daily. It took ages to get home, and I had to sit on this, thinking, has anyone else seen him? Has anyone else got the photograph? And then when I got home, I phoned the Daily Mirror. And they sent a motorbike man because there wasn't time for me to develop it. And don't forget, I only took one picture, one.
Yeah.
And he was shouting at me and swearing, and I was shaking.
Did you get the credit for that photograph?
And they promised me, because it was a big international story.
Yeah, yeah.
And they never gave me a credit.
Again.
Now,
the final one of these particular instances where you've met people is the Torval and Dean, where you're waiting for them to basically just get an autograph for your mother. Is that right?
Exactly.
And out comes Jane Torval and Christopher Dean.
But I knew that I said to the guy at the gate before the show started, I said, which one is Torval and Dean's car? He said, I can't tell you. I said, oh, go on, tell me. And he said, well, all right then. I said, oh, please tell me. He goes, I said, my mother, she really wants to get an autograph. And people were speculating, are they a couple or are they not? And they loved to keep that a mystery. They would never say yes, they would never say no.
That's right, yeah.
And the years went by and they never, ever explained anything about their relationship. So then, after the show, I said, I knew where the car was. So I was telling him it was pitch black. And then the guy thought I was going to have a drink with him afterwards because he was tipping me off where all the details. And so as it came out, I stopped like this, and they stopped the car. So then he undoes the window. I said, oh, please can I have your autograph? And I went, click, click, click. Do you mind? And I clicked. And they drove off. And I had no idea until I came home and developed it. That poor old Jane is sitting in the back seat with her head down like this. And he's got another woman there with a hotel key in her hand. Yeah. So then I said,
at the time.
I said, oh, I could take a photograph. I could send that to, it was a Saturday, so I thought I'd try News of the World. And they couldn't believe that I'd got this exclusive. I thought, they said, how'd you do it? We've been trying. I said, I just came across it by accident.
And did you get the credit for that?
No. I never did. They hardly ever gave credit.
Jeez.
I know, it's so annoying.
It's just totally amazing.
But you see, I've got a platform like yours, Paul, now to say that I took those photos. So most people who are interested will be long gone, but I don't care. I have a platform which you're giving me now to say what it was like, etc. You know.
Quite right. It's just, you know, we've gone on. I did say originally to you that we would only talk for about 40 minutes. We've gone way past that time.
Have
So
we?
we have, you know,
Hello.
I told you we'd go quick. So we haven't really had an opportunity to show your photographs on Pinterest. But what we'll do at the end of the show, we'll make sure that everyone's got your website address so they can go on there and have a look at your images. Just coming away slightly from those they're lovely stories, but there must have been such a frustrating time for you. But at the same time, now let's ask the question: was it frustrating for you?
Well, okay. When I was turned away from Wembley Stadium with an official pass, it was so humiliating for me to know that those photographers watched me pleading and begging, and he's got his hands behind his back, tiptoes from heel to toe over my dead body, mate. But you know what was worse? To go home and say to my husband I wasn't allowed in. And he said, when you're going to get it into your head you're just a housewife, know your place. And that was worse than even being banned from not allowed to go. But no, it's because my life has just been, since I was a little girl, I was sent away to boarding school. Look after yourself. You haven't got, when there's thunder and lightning and the trees are crashing down in monsoon storms, you haven't got anyone's bed to climb into, your mummy or daddy's bed, and say, oh, I'm frightened. You just have to grin and bear it till the morning comes. You have to not speak after lights out in a boarding school. You can't. You have to follow rules. You have to look after yourself. You have to stand on your own 2 feet. And looking back, it was sad and, in a way, cruel. We were not allowed dolls. I'd never even heard of teddy bears. I didn't even know children had teddy bears, because in India we never got teddy bears. We never had Enid Blyton books. The only books we were allowed to read outside school books were from the school library, all the classics. It was very classical education. So I was used to fighting my own battles. No one was going to back me up. And alone in this country, the first few years, I just had to find my own way, do my own battles. But I'm still taking the photos.
Exactly right. I think this is what comes across really when I was listening to you originally talk at my club, and now, and more so now, because I view this as a one-to-one, and I know there are others watching, and hopefully further will watch on the YouTube. There's a definite fighting spirit, which obviously you had from your younger years, which stayed with you, and a determination for you to stick with what became obviously a big, huge passion in taking photographs, sports photography, in what we've now come to realise was such a male-dominated activity in those days. Can I just quickly talk about the camera gear that you used?
Yes.
Yes, we started off with the Rolleiflex, and then we got into using the SLRs and Nikon.
My first SLR was the F2. Then I knew then that I'd made it. I paid for it myself, and I've still got the Rolleiflex. I've still got the Box Brownie camera. But today's digital cameras are, I'm sorry to say this, but look at this one here. They're such rubbish. They're so badly made. This one is, look, you can see, it's all peeling off, all the skin's peeling off. Everything's kept together with sellotape and masking tape and gaffer tape, because it's just so badly made. And this handle, this grip here, is just got so big that it stands out over nearly 1/4 of an inch above, trying to get into this part of the camera.
The wheel, yeah.
My F2 has travelled around the world with me. It's just been with me for years and years, and it's absolutely substantial.
I don't know whether you. Sorry to interrupt you. I don't know whether you know the famous story of Don McCullen, who was the.
Oh yes, he was a war photographer.
A war photographer in Vietnam, and the famous story. He was probably, I hope I'm not correct here, I think he was one of the very first war photographers to start using Nikon cameras in the field, and he was with this American outfit, and they were crossing a deserted area. I think they were going across some kind of marshland, and as they walked across in single file, it was an ambush, and they all kicked off, so to speak. Bullets were flying everywhere, and he said all he can remember was a ping going past his left ear. And it wasn't until he'd made it to the safety of the bushes on this on the other side of where they all had to basically run, he realised that the bullet had hit his Nikon F and ricocheted up past his left ear. I believe the camera still worked afterwards, but
well done.
That's how they used to make cameras in those days. The Nikon F was a tank, basically. I think the F2 was. And funny enough, the first guest that I ever had on this show, Frederick Van Johnson, his first ever camera when he joined the US Air Force, Navy, I can't remember now, the first ever camera he was given was a Nikon F3. He'd never touched a camera before then, and they just gave it to him and he said, there you go, soldier, donk. Learn that camera. And it was a tank. You know, they were built to last. These days, of course, they're made of all sorts of different materials, magnesiums, they're made of plastics and molded together. But that's a Nikon D200 there, is that right, Hi?
Yes, I think this one's D200. This one's but this D200 is just, oh, it's so
falling apart.
Pathetic. Look at this, it's all peeling off. It's just pathetic. I hate it.
Send it back.
It's happened within a year.
Send it back.
I've just seen my Crystal Palace, Barclays Crystal Palace ticket here for the match.
That's great. So it basically is Nikon gear, and you're still using Nikon now as well. But basically, let's talk about let's talk lenses. What lens do you have that you use majority of the time?
80 to 200. And
that's on the camera all the time?
All the time.
Yeah. See,
I don't have time to faff about anymore because it does everything I need it to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know there's some photographs on your website there of you sitting by, and obviously you had some bigger lenses in earlier days. With, But you're like me. You're a one camera, one lens user. Hi, you're like me. Just really? One camera and one lens.
But I tell you what,
that's my blog site.
I've learned that I've got to start looking at scenery, because was it you that said I'd photographed Westminster Abbey in a puddle and then turned it upside down in the picture? And I
did.
And said, that's really interesting. I said, ooh, it's not a movement picture, it's not a people picture, but I might start looking to see about thingy's picture, you know, just...
I remember the shot. I think I basically termed it as a bit of visual art. I think they're basically...
That's what you said, and I was thought, yeah, they've all done visual art. I was well impressed when you gave it a title.
Well, Don McCullum, the famous war photographer, he's very famous now for his landscape photography. So there you go. You can probably move into... change the lens and get into landscape.
No, but when I look at landscapes... what I see with my eyes is so beautiful. When I put the camera up to my face, I just don't get the beauty of it through my photographs. I really don't. Yeah. I don't know how to capture the beauty of what I see in a landscape with that looks better than what I see with the human eye. That's odd, isn't it? I'm saying,
it is odd, but at the same, but you see, I think it's ingrained in you from when you basically started. When you used your box brownie, you were taking photographs of the kids. Now, it's an interesting point you made at the start. They weren't the kids just sitting around like, well, quite honestly, like I would. You know, at a party, I'd say, right, sit down and take a photograph. No, you wanted them running towards you. You wanted action. You wanted movement.
They jump off a sand dune when they were little on a beach. And they would just jump off a sand dune, and I'd lay on my stomach. Where did I get all that from? I have no idea where it came from.
It's just, I think there is a lot, in my view, there's a lot to do with the subconscious mind as regards to how we take a photograph. Why, when we're out walking about, be it street photography or like you're on the side of a football pitch, what in actual fact tells you to press that button? I'm a firm believer it's the vision, exactly, but at the same time it's got to be a subconscious mind. Something subconsciously works within us to say, that's the time I take that photograph. Click, it's now. And I think from hearing your story, I keep using that word, it's the wrong word, my apologies.
No, it is a story. It
Yeah,
is a
hearing
story.
what you said before, that I'm convinced that when you get into a particular way of taking photographs, it does become ingrained, and
Yes, yeah,
everything else becomes superfluous to really to your style of photography.
yeah.
Take my camera club for instance. I've got the 4 fantastic photographers at the club. One does still life photography. She'll set the table up, nice vase, some cherries around. She'll put some flowers up, take the photograph. It is absolutely stunning. Polina Plotnikova is the name of the
I've
photographer.
met her,
She
yeah.
does a lot of, yeah, she does a lot of not nature, still life flower photography. Absolutely superb. But I've got to say, when she takes a landscape photograph or a street photograph, it's not in the same league. It's good, don't get me wrong, but it's not in the same league. And I think you do find your niche in photography.
What
There's
is
another
your
one.
niche? What is
Well,
your
I'd like to think my niche is abstract, is architectural type photography, but I'm trying to teach myself to get more involved with street photography. So when I see something like the photograph you took of the Big Ben in the puddle, which you turned up the right way, that appealed to me straight away because it was visual art. There was an abstract form of the photograph because of the use of the puddle. That really
Funny
appealed
enough,
to
I
me. So
enjoyed
that,
that.
I suppose, is my niche. Sorry?
I said, funny enough, I enjoyed that looking at that photograph. I said, wow, that looks really
Yeah.
interesting. It really looked
Well,
good.
there'll be times where you take some photographs now. If slowly but surely, I'm sure, as you
Yeah,
start taking photographs outside of the business you've been involved with,
yeah.
you'll find something. I'm sure.
I'm sure you're right.
I tell you, Hi, you're an inspiration. I just want to say that you are a total inspiration to anyone who wants to make their way in any business, be it photography, golf, cricket, football, high business end. To have the determination and the um, strength to carry on, even though you're going to get knocked back, and added to the fact in your situation as being a female in a men's dominated world, uh, a total inspiration, a fantastic story. We'll use that word
Oh,
again.
you're
A
making me
fantastic
cry.
story.
You're
Don't
making me
cry.
cry.
Don't be
Yeah.
silly. But what I wanted to say was, I understand because a little bird told me that you've been shortlisted for an award. Can you tell
Yes,
us about that?
yeah. I only knew that last week on Facebook. Somebody said, congratulations, hi. And I said, why, what have I done? And they said, you've been
Yeah.
shortlisted for the First Woman Award. I said, have I? And then
Oh.
apparently I have. And they've categorized me in the drama department, in the
It's in the
media section.
media department. Yeah, I checked it.
But then when I looked at, say, the woman who created Mumsnet, she's
Mm.
mega. It's just massive. It's practically global, and it's just me. And I'm thinking, why do they bother? To be honest, because I haven't made an impact on the world, or it's just. I thought that's so odd. Mumsnet is massive, and
Yes,
just me
I
by
think.
myself.
I think.
How could you stand against that? But however,
Well,
I'm very honoured that someone thought so.
you've been shortlisted. If you don't get the honour, you got the honour of being shortlisted amongst
Exactly. I
three
quite.
other. Is it 3 other women?
I think there's 5 in total, so it's 4 other women.
5 in total. So another 4 women involved. Well, all I can say is before we actually finish this show, I wish you all the very best with that. With a bit of luck, someone's watching this broadcast and think, yeah, okay, we'll select Hi as the winner, and
Oh,
not the big business people.
I
But we'll
have to
see how
thank
that
my
goes for
boarding
you.
school days in India for seeing me through everything
And
without
see,
cracking and
you can thank the previous world that you lived in, Bangalore, all those years. You obviously go back home from time to time.
I go to India, but not necessarily Bangalore. There's nobody left there anymore. Do you know my
No.
mother said that she's going to take one by one, we're all going to meet up, my 2 sisters and myself. I was the first. Do you know how long it took for us all to meet up under one roof? It took
No.
40 years.
40.
40. And I called in the local
Amazing, isn't it?
newspapers and I said, look, we've met up for the first time in 40 years, all three sisters and a mother, and they put it on the front page of the local newspapers, and one of the royals was visiting in East Grinstead, and she got just a small picture underneath, and I said, yes, we've beaten the royals to this. Yeah, so all the things my mother planned to do didn't work out, but there we go. I'm still taking the pictures. I was at the Footballer of the Year yesterday, and all kinds of
yesterday, and you've been at other events, obviously, which involved with Crystal Palace. I saw the regular updates on your Facebook account. Let's come to the point. Hi, where can people find you on the website? What's your website address?
It's just Google HyMoney, and Hi is spelled H-Y. Some people Google H-I and it doesn't work. So just HyMoney. HyMoney at btinternet.com. Hopefully by tomorrow.
HyMoney. Could you repeat that? HyMoney what?
At btinternet.com. Right, I don't have a huge profile on the web, but not like Mum's Nest.
No, it's not. No, well, we'll see what happens on that front. Yeah. Okay. Well,
thank you, Paul.
I've got to thank you very much indeed. We've been trying to get this chat together for quite a while. You've been busy, and obviously I've been busy with other things, and we got there. We made it, and we've had a great chat. And as I said, total inspiration to anyone who's interested in getting into photography or any other business. And really, for my viewers, the way I always close the show, yeah, you guessed it, leave your camera bag at home. Good night for now. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bless you, Paul. Thank you.